Hello, I'm in Germany, the other side, the east side of the Rhine, and I'm in a beautiful forest area, absolutely gorgeous. I'm trying to find something that I wouldn't expect to be here, because this type of weapon was used mainly on England. So let's go and see what remnants there is left of this particular weapon that they used around this area. Well, we're at this site. So yeah, have a look what you think it might be. This is the beginning of it. And down there is the end of it. Any idea? Well, I'll tell you. These are the bedrock or building blocks of a V1 ramp. This is where they launch V1s. Now, not in England. England's 400 miles away. But closer and most important to the Germans and the Allies was the port of Antwerp. Now, from here, Antwerp is about 130 miles away. And this is pointing directly towards Antwerp. The first recorded V1 and V2 launches onto Antwerp and to Brussels was in October of 1944, and the last one was in March 1945. From October 1944 to March 1945, the Germans fired 4,885 V1s at Antwerp and Brussels. Out of that, only 4.5% got through, which totals to about 211 V1s. The rest were shot down with effective anti-aircraft cover. Because Antwerp's much closer than United Kingdom, especially when these V1 and V2s were firing at London, the effectiveness of that range made that they were much more accurate. So there was more chance of them actually hitting the target because the Germans could adjust the flight length and obviously the height as well. The height, they normally fly at about 3,000 feet, but I think they dropped it down to about 900 feet, something like that. They was more effective, but then again, as I said before, the anti-aircraft cover did a very, very good job. Because the flight time was less for these V1s, much shorter. That means that the deviation between hitting the target and missing the target was about 10 kilometres, which is roughly about 6 miles either side of the target. So no doubt they were probably pretty accurate. No doubt when they were firing on London, the deviation was quite substantial, to be honest with you. The thing with the V1s firing out to England, we could either fire them out the sky like they did here at Antwerp, or if we had a quick enough aeroplane like the Supermarine Spitfire or something like that, we could actually tip them off course. Plus we had spies working for us, telling the Germans, saying, yeah, we've landed, you've hit the target there, keep sending them that way. But what they were actually doing was, they were telling them to fire it somewhere else, or maybe shorter, or further, or to the left or right. In other words, there's less chance of these V1s hitting the UK, but obviously not from here, because a lot of these type of sites were dotted around the coast of France, pointing at London. What I've not noticed around here is there's no actual buildings that usually require a V1 to be assembled and filled up with the fuel and fired from this launch site. They needed somewhere to assemble it, somewhere to store it, somewhere to fill it up with the necessary fuel. They also needed like a degaussing building, a place where they could demagnetise the actual thing itself. It was in a building, usually concrete, but with no steel in it. The idea was to set up the compass so it would point whichever direction they were going to point it in. I don't see nothing like this, so I'm not exactly sure how they did it regarding as such as a mobile site, which the V1s, the V2, sorry, had to be mobile, because the places like Epilec and Lacopole and all the places where they were being built to send these rockets up were destroyed. So the Nazis came up with an inventive idea of mobile V2 rocket launching sites, which worked. But as far as I know, I've not seen anything round here. I've not found any information regarding there's any sort of buildings here at all. So I'm not exactly sure what they actually did regarding setting up and executing these V1 rockets over to Antwerp. You can see the indentations where the actual metal ramp sat, and then the railing would sit on top of that, obviously head towards that way. See the ridges in this first bit of concrete, and then the little lip on that one. Would assume that the amount of power that was necessary to fire one of these V1s along this ramp would have been tremendous at the bottom of you. You're looking at like 0 to probably 300 miles an hour, the very short distance, and that there would have held the ramp in place when all the force is pushing backwards towards that way.
These V1s were fired from a Walter catapult. The length of the ramp was 49 metres or 160 foot. It consisted of 8 modular sections. Each section was 20 foot long or 6 metres. The ramp incline was around 6 degrees. At the end of the ramp was a muzzle brake to compensate for recoil. With the help of a steam generator, the V1 was catapulted from 0 to 200 miles an hour or 320 kilometres per hour. This speed was necessary as the stall speed of a V1 is around 150 miles per hour or 240 kilometres per hour. The maximum speed that the V1 could reach was around 400 miles an hour or 644 kilometres per hour. And the maximum distance was around 160 miles or 250 kilometres.
Well, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of information regarding the V1 and why it's set up here in this woodland, and the reason why it's pointing in the direction of Antwerp and Brussels. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. See you again.